What's up, y'all? Y'all know what it is. Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Hope you guys are well. I'm gonna delve into one we've seen circulating online, and this has to do with a father talking to his daughter. Why don't we give it a listen? Here we go.
Hello.
I don't want to talk.
Good day. How you doing today?
Good, I don't want to talk.
Why you always tell me that?
Because I don't like talking to you. I don't like talking to you.
But you ain't gonna let me ask the question before you try to answer.
You just say, how are you? You just say, how are you?
Oh my goodness, Demi, why you so rude to your daddy?
I don't like talking to you.
But that doesn't give you a reason to be rude. You gotta honor your mother and your father, sweetheart.
Okay, I don't want to talk.
I get that much, but you don't have to be rude about it.
I said I don't want to talk.
I know that. I heard you the first 4 times, but you still need to stop being rude. That's the whole thing about it.
I'm telling you something and you're not listening.
Because I'm the parent, you can't tell me nothing. That's the thing.
I can express my feelings.
You definitely can, but you can do that without being rude as well. That's the whole thing. That's the key.
Okay.
You don't be rude and you don't be disrespectful. Okay, but you don't have to talk over me
I don't want
either.
to talk.
But you don't have to talk over me. So if you don't want to talk and you're going to talk over me, you could just be quiet and let me say what I got to say. You get that from your mama. But I love you and I miss you anyway.
Bye-bye.
Yo. So this is not as much about just the conversation as it is about, whenever I play something off there, I gotta catch it. Anyway, so it's not just about what happened. Obviously, what happened was ridiculous. Daughter was way out of sorts. I think there's all kind of things we can glean from this. Yes, I think there are fathers that spoil their daughters until it's too late. Yes, I think that he took a lot more than I would have. He took a lot more than my parents would have. I mean, I can tell you about time periods where my father put me up against the wall and lifted me up with one hand. You know what I mean? I can tell you about times where my mother smacked the mess out of me behind situations like that. So for me, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things about this that we could talk about. What I want to get to, though, is the conversation that took place on my Facebook page in regard to this. Now, I just posted it and I asked a simple question. I said, from where does the disrespect stem? Right? From where does it stem? And the interesting thing with all of these responses, right, were that many of them were actually in avid defense of the mother. And that was interesting to me. It was interesting to me. I mean, you had people going out their way to say, what a horrible father. Why would he post this? They went out their way to say, well, we shouldn't talk about the mother. She's not there. People gave personal anecdotes about their own fathers and, you know, how poor a job their fathers did. And therefore, you know, we got to withhold all kinds of things. And my response, you know, there was a little bit of length to it as far as something you read on social media, but I'll read it to you just so I stay honest. I said, I find it interesting how far we go to avoid critiquing women. The father actually said it was based on the influence of the mother in terms of his daughter's behavior, but folks seem to dismiss that while blaming him for saying it to the daughter. But instead of dealing with it, we shame him. Father negotiating raising a daughter while grappling with a parent that usually has more influence over a child, often due to custody judgment. And this is specifically when you start talking about mothers and daughters, because mothers are the first influence on what femininity is to a daughter. Right? I continue. It's interesting to see the mental gymnastics so many of us will go through to protect the mother from accountability altogether, whether it be in the name of community or the need to make sure everyone somehow has some equal part to blame, even without us knowing any of the details to this situation. We seem to bend over backwards to interject personal anecdotes, shaming language, or ideology to make sure the mother is left void of critique. Yet when I see videos critiquing men's actions or absence, right, there's generally very little effort expended to protect him. And I seldom see this much effort on the part of commenters to seek balance or equity in those situations. All I can say is, if we truly want a healed community, you can't have 40 years of blaming black men, then ask for equity when black men finally begin speaking up for themselves, really talking about their own experiences, which is really all the father did. Whether it's due to women's solipsism or men's chivalry, you can't heal a community by hyper-critiquing one group and exalting the other. I, for one, won't erase his voice or his frustration from the narrative. There's already been way too much of that. I would argue that the family court's influence is paramount for understanding the state of the black family today. Who gets custody, thanks to the influence of the tender years doctrine, who the child is most likely raised and influenced by, and the means to use courts to fleece fathers, especially if they're poor. This has greatly impacted our current situation, but it leaves black women in positions of proxy authority via said courts that can't as easily be sidestepped. In fact, this has been detrimental. So what did I mean? I was surprised at how many men and women could not wait to find every excuse in the world to either blame the father or take the onus off the mother. Now, here's the thing. The father himself said that she gets this from his mother. And they spent much more time talking about the fact that he said it to his daughter than the fact that his experience led him to that conclusion. Now, I'm a single parent. I'm a single father. I know what it is to be frustrated. You ain't always perfect. You don't always say the best thing possible. Sometimes you say some shit that's real because you're dealing with, an unruly child. Any parent can tell you about that. So me expecting him to be perfect? Nah, never. Should he have said that? That depends. Depends on your value system. I probably would have, but that would also depend on what's going on with the mother. But if I was in his shoes and it prompted him to say it, I might have, because I never said I was perfect. But here's the thing that gets me more than anything. It was the gymnastics, as I pointed out. It was every effort extended to make sure we deflected. I mean, I saw people going off into all kinds of possibilities, into the stratosphere about what could be happening that we just don't know enough about. And you know what? On one end, I applaud it because I don't mind that brothers want other brothers to be accountable to our word. I don't have a problem with that part of it. I just have a problem with the inconsistency of it. That's my problem. If you can actually demand that this black father be accountable to every facet of what you can imagine he must have done wrong, yet you have no such expectations or pressure to be brought to bear on the black mother. Well, she wasn't there. No. As far as I'm concerned, if he brought her up, he'd been through some shit. And I'm going to take him at his word, at least. Not to say, look, y'all know I'm the first one to tell you, go hear both sides of the story. I did a video about a week ago where I said that very thing. Hear both sides of the story. Go listen to your mother, but also go listen to your father. Get the sides of the story so you can find some kind of sense of balance. Because ain't nobody got 100% of the truth. And I'm not saying that we can't listen to the mother's experience. Not at all. But you're not going to convince me that he ain't been through something. See, we've heard black men being responsible for the state of everything, especially in the last 40 years. As if that it's just in isolation. It's happening in a vacuum. Black men just woke up one day and decided to, no. There are larger institutional pressures at play that influence how black men navigate society. They're treated differently. They have to navigate differently. And they have a whole series of pressures that no other demographic has. And if you're expecting this man to be Superman and rise above it off of pure just alpha energy or whatever, that bullshit is dead. It doesn't work. This is one of the reasons that men die. Black men in particular die early behind the stress of it. Hell, even when black men are highly educated, has no protection on their health, but it does for every other group. Even when black men are born into wealth, they're the most susceptible into moving into poverty. That doesn't even protect them. Black men have undue pressures on them that are institutionally based. And we don't even regard it. Even other black men will be the first ones to down talk him. And you'll see it in the comments here. There'll be brothers in here that are, that can't wait to find fault in what he did. But here's the thing. At some point, as I said, if you're going to have a community, then accountability can't be limited to one demographic. Now, if you don't want a community anymore, keep doing what you're doing. Black men have been blamed for pretty much everything in the last 40 years, especially. Keep doing what you're doing. For those of you that want a community, can't limit accountability to one demographic, and it can't just be men. This is why black men are speaking out right now, because so far we've been the only ones pressured. Look, it doesn't matter if you're a father and you're doing your part as a parent that's not in the home. It doesn't matter if you're the sole father. Black men get the blame across the board. They do. Even when they're absent, they get the blame. Black men are not protected from any kind of critique about the state of the communities, most particularly the state of the black family. Black males are not protected from critique. But say something about mama. And watch how people respond. I'm just saying, y'all. At some point, mama got to get critiqued. Mama got to get called out because she ain't perfect either. And you can't solve the problems that a group has by strictly looking at how one group navigates the world. But tell me what you think nonetheless. Wish you guys well. Peace.